semester in composition, I want to make a distinction between grammar and usage. Grammar is the common understanding of the rules by which we communicate with one another. That is, a sentence needs to have a verb, subjects do actions, that kind of thing. But usage is really about the style in which we communicate with one another. And this semester I want to talk about usage as we lead up to each essay. Today we're talking about demonstratives. Demonstratives are words that rely on an external frame of reference. So they demonstrate or they point out something, but they themselves don't often carry a lot of meaning without that external frame of reference. What is the problem? The problem is that demonstratives can function as adjectives and as pronouns. Adjectives all require nouns, and pronouns actually stand in for nouns. And because these words are so interchangeable, words like this, that, these, and those, and my favorites, yon and yonder, which we don't use very often anymore, these words, see what I did there? These words, that is a demonstrative in front of a noun. These is the adjective, and words tells us what we are modifying there. These words, because they can function as adjectives, often end up functioning as pronouns as well, and that pronoun usage becomes a little confusing. And maybe that's a little confusing too. So let's take a look at some examples. This seahorse has beautiful eyes is clear, but if we say this has beautiful eyes, I don't know what you're referring to. That magical pony better not step on my seahorse. Again, we're very clear here about what we are talking about. But if you remove the noun in the sentence on the right, then you have less clarity. So basically, you want to be as clear as possible in your usage, especially when you're writing. Demonstrative pronouns require a lot from our audience, and they oftentimes function in our conversational usage. So if I say, this is really good, and I'm looking at you and I'm also eating a taco at the same time, you know that I'm referring to the taco because of our shared experience. But when you're writing, you cannot guarantee the shared experience of your reader. And that's why a demonstrative adjective rather than a pronoun is often more appropriate when we're writing. So here are some rules or some things to think about when we think about demonstrative pronouns. Oftentimes they're followed by linking verbs or being verbs, am, is, are, was, or were. And if that's the case, you oftentimes need a referent. So those look fabulous. Well, what looks fabulous? I don't know. We have linking verbs that require nominal predicates. So they either rename the subject or they describe the subject. And that gets a little grammatical for us today, but basically what you want to know is that a demonstrative pronoun sometimes muddies the waters where a demonstrative adjective can clarify. So if we have a sentence like, the impulse to buy things is simply part of the American culture, this shapes the thinking of nearly every family. This is the kind of sentence that I might have from a student. You see at the top here, the impulse to buy things should probably grammatically be connected to this, but is the sentence fully connected to this pronoun, or is it that the American culture shapes the thinking, or is it the impulse to buy things? Are they connected? I have a lot of questions about this, and then I'll trip over this sentence, and you don't want your reader to do that. So as we fix the problem, or as we diagnose the problem, we always want to know that a noun can always help. If I say this impulse, that would definitely clarify that previous sentence. You can combine two sentences and use a clause. So if you know how to put a comma plus which or that can be very helpful. Again, demonstrative pronouns are not wrong, and that's what usage is about. So it's not that things are right or wrong. It's about bringing clarity and being gracious to your readers. So here's some corrected sentences. This impulse shapes the thinking. The impulse to buy things, which shapes the thinking. So then it's very clearly connected. to the impulse. And then here's another interpretation. The impulse to buy things is simply part of American culture. This culture, which then is much more comprehensive than simply the impulse to buy things. Clarity is the goal. Number 1, make sure your noun is close to your pronoun if that's possible. You can always correct vague usage by adding a noun or combining sentences, and you can change the entire subject if you need to. So here's some practice. Eating a healthy diet on campus presents challenges to students. The options are limited, the cafeteria is open only certain hours, and the temptation to eat junk food abounds. In addition, many students struggle to make good choices without parental accountability. This contributes to sickness and weight gain in the first months of college. That entire paragraph leads up to a confusing demonstrative pronoun. Is it eating a healthy diet? Is it limited options? Is it the absence of parental accountability? So you can add a noun there at the end and tell me exactly what it is. It may be that it's this combination, and that would even be more clarifying. If I just said, Dana just told me she was going to break up with her boyfriend, that was surprising. Here the confusion is, I don't know whether it's confusing that Dana told me, because we're not that close, or it's confusing that Dana's breaking up with her boyfriend because I thought they were getting married. There's so much here that could be open to interpretation, and it's very clear to the person who's writing the sentence because they have all the information in their head. But just remember that your reader can't look inside your head, and so you have to give them exactly what they need to be on the same literal and metaphorical page with you. And that's a little bit about usage. We'll talk more about this as the semester continues. Thanks.